بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل إن ربي يبسط الرزق لمن يشاء من عباده ويقدر له وما أنفقتم من شيء فهو يخلفه وهو خير الرازقين. صدق الله العظيم. Alhamdulillah, brothers and sisters, we're continuing with prophetic principles or Quranic principles for life. And just as a science book or a physics book, you see that it explains the laws from the physical world, from the biological world, from the material world. So when we look at a book of biology, or we look at a book of science, or we look at a book of physics, this is explaining the world from the laws of material world. But the Quran is the book that explains the laws of the metaphysical world. It explains the laws of the spiritual realm. It explains the laws from a completely different perspective. Just as we know, when you talk about gravity, there's the law, Newton's law, what goes up must come down. Similarly, in our deen, there are metaphysical laws, like مَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. The law of recompense, the law of whatever you do, that is what will come back upon you. So these are, if we read the Quran from this lens, from this perspective, it's profound, because a lot of the questions that we have in the world, that why does this happen and why does that happen, it tells you and answers you the whys. But you have to come and approach the Quran from that perspective. Otherwise, if you don't come to the Quran with that perspective I want to know the answers, this will give you those answers. From amongst those answers is another metaphysical law. This ayah from the 22nd juz of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that قُلْ إِنَّ رَبِّي يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَقْدِرُ لَهُ. That tell them, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that my Lord, He expands the provision of some people and Allah restricts for some. And this means that, sustenance, you're earning, you're eating, how much sustenance does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destined for someone? How much sustenance is somebody allotted? What is our portion? Just as when the rain descends, there is a specific amount, there is a specific set decree of how much water is going to descend from the heavens, from which time to which time, and what is the duration, and the exact measure. It is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is rizq. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us a very important rule, a very important principle. قُلْ إِنَّ رَبِّي يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَقْدِرُ لَهُ. Allah expands certain people's sustenance and Allah restricts it. And Allah expands sustenance, meaning Allah ta'ala maybe gives some people more ample sustenance. Allah gives some people more affluence. Right? Here, maybe our refrigerators are always full. We don't think about what we're going to eat and what is our sustenance. In other places, maybe Allah has restricted it. So remember that the Mufassirin and the ulama, they explain this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expands people's sustenance. He can through honoring them, and it is not necessarily an honor. Meaning the fact that Allah Ta'ala is expanding certain people's sustenance more than others, this is not necessarily Allah honoring them. This could be a dishonor, and this could be a test upon those people as well. Because there's certain people that when they go into affluence, when they go into richness, when they go into plenitude, when they go into abundance, they also go into forgetfulness. They also go into heedlessness. They also go into a state of ingratitude, and their hearts become hard towards humanity. And you see, it's very interesting. If you look at the statistics, the people in the most affluent areas, they have the highest levels and the highest ratio of suicide that commits in those areas. The richest areas, The richest places, the most affluent places, you look at the cause of death, there's a very, more than anywhere else, a very high suicide rate in those places. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't increase people's sustenance and then this is like totally like an honor for them. It could be a disgrace for them. Why is it a disgrace? Because when they're receiving these blessings, you become hard-hearted. You become merciless. You become hard-hearted. You become merciless. You become careless. You become callous. You become oppressive, right? Because you never seen pain. You never seen suffering. You never seen difficulty and hardship. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is His allotment. Do you know what is allotment? His proportioning. Right? You have ratio or you have rations and somebody's distributing rations. They say, okay, you get 2 and you get 2 and you get 5 and you get 7. This is something that is not within the control of human beings. This is something that it is the system of Allah. It is not a means and a sign of Allah Ta'ala's blessing, necessarily somebody, that their sustenance is ample. And it is not a sign that somebody is disgracing somebody. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ وَيَقْدِرُ لَهُ. Allah does it for who He wills. And this is the test of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made some people with very limited resources and limited sustenance, so He can test those who He has given them ample resources and sustenance to see how will they treat one another. Will these that I have blessed them, will they remember those that have not been privileged? There is tremendous wisdoms of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Somebody said this. He said, where is God? Look at all these people suffering in the world. Look at all this famine and starvation in Africa. Where is God? So the Shaykh answered a very beautiful question. Where are you? Where is the rich people of this world that should be giving their zakat? Wallahi, if just the Emirates, the oil sheikhs of the Emirates, they distribute their zakat, there will probably be no famine or hunger in Africa. Where is God? God has already given the hukum. God has already commanded us to do good. God has already given us the affluence and the wealth and distributed it amongst humanity. Where is humanity? God is there. God gave us the Quran. That's what God did. And God gave us money. And God gave us affluence. And God said, أَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ. Spend of that which we, وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. And from that which we have given them, they spend. So don't ask, where is God? Ask, where is humanity? Don't ever ask the stupid question. This is one of the stupid questions. Where is God? Why does Allah allow suffering? Allah does not ever like, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not ever take joy in suffering. But this is the system of this world, to test humanity. When those who have been given affluence and they have been given the command, spend in the way of Allah from what we have given you, and they don't do it, whose fault is this? Is this the fault of God? Is this the fault of the Creator? Or is this the fault of those who have been blessed beyond measure? There was one of the European humanitarian, he was a philanthropist. He's spending a lot of money, different organizations in Africa and Asia, helping poor people. He said a very interesting thing. He said, the amount of money it takes to feed all of the hungry people in the world. He actually mentioned this. It's a very interesting interview. He's a person who's a humanitarian aid around the world. He said all it takes is about, and he mentioned a specific number. He said, 1.2 billion or 2 billion. This is the amount of money that it takes to feed all of the hungry people of the world and completely set everybody. No one would be hungry. No one would be in a state of starvation or famine or anything. 1 million. What would happen to Bill Gates if he would have spent that 1 million instead of spending it on the vaccines? He's very, very concerned about that for some reason. I don't know what's the reason why he's so concerned about that. Whereas you have these humanitarian organizations of the world, and it says and it doesn't have to be one person. Let's just say a bunch of billionaires get together. Each of them throw in a 10. Each of them throw in a 5 million, a 10 million from his, from his account. It wouldn't even bring a dent inside of his account. So when we're asking these kind of questions, our eye goes directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereas we don't realize that there's a lot, everything, you don't put all the blame on Allah. This is what we do, and this is our habit. Every blame that is there, we put it on Allah. Why is Allah doing this? Why did Allah do this? Allah gave humanity free will. Allah, يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَقْدِرُ. Allah expanded certain people's rizq, and Allah restricted certain people's rizq. So those people that Allah expanded their wealth, Allah wants to see what will they do with their wealth. 2.5% of a person's wealth is zakat. From $100 was 2.5, $2.50. From $100, you won't even be asked to give zakat, because there's no zakat on $100. But I'm just giving an example. From $100, $2.50. From $1,000, $25. From $1,000, you are asked to give $25. From $10,000, just add the zero. $250. From $10,000, $250. From $100,000, $2,500. And just carry the zero. You understand? What is Allah asking from you? What injustice is being done upon you? No injustice. And the reality of it is that if we understand this system, this is why this ayah that we're talking about, and then after Allah Ta'ala says this, Allah expands certain people's wealth and Allah restricts certain people's wealth. Understand that this is my system of testing humanity. This is my proportion. This is my distribution. You don't question my distribution. I have a wisdom in that. But to say, why are people suffering? No one has to suffer if you implement the deen. Nobody will suffer if you implement the deen. And look at then, immediately after this sentence, Allah says, وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَهُوَ يُخْلِفُهُ. And anything that you spend, know that He will replace it for you. Anything that you spend, Allah will replace it. From this we understand another metaphysical rule of this world. Allah Ta'ala is telling us, anything that is spent, any zakat that you give, any sadaqah that you give, any charity that you give, that will not, don't look at that as negative. If you gave zakat $250, for example, $25, that's not, you see it in your bank account, minus 25. It's not minus 25. Don't believe your eyes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَهُوَ يُخْلِفُهُ. That which you spend from your wealth, Allah will replace it. In another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ كَمَثَلِ حَبَّةٍ. The example of those who spend in the way of Allah is like the example of a seed that you plant. And then a corn plant grows from that one seed. في كل سنبلة مئة حبة. And from that ear, that one ear, في كل سنبلة مئة حبة. And in that every sumbula, in every ear, you have 100 seeds. So مثل الذين ينفقون في سبيل كمثل حبة أنبتت سبع سنابل. That one seed, it grows 7 ears of corn. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explained the parable of when you spend. When you give in charity, you give $1 in charity. Brothers and sisters, this is not a fundraiser, by the way. This is to understand that this is one of the fundamental teachings of our deen. It is the fundamental teaching of what humanity rests upon khair khahi. Humanity rests upon concern and care for other human beings and other creatures of God. This is what humanity is. Compassion, concern. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He says in the Quran, this is a very important concept. And I'm not talking about charity from the perspective of fundraising right now. I'm talking about charity from the perspective of the demand of it in our faith. What is the meaning of spending? We never really think about it. Allah Ta'ala in many places He says it like this. And think about, why did Allah couple these two things together? أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. These two things are always together. Why are they together? You guys heard of this before? وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. Right? أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. And establish the prayer and give the charity. And establish the prayer and give the... What's the prayer? Why is the charity always being joined with the prayer? These are two different things. So this is the beauty. Look at what the ulama mentioned. He says, أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ, establish the prayer. This is the right of your Creator. This is the right of Allah. وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ, this is the right of the creation of Allah. And for you to be a good human being and a good Muslim, you have to fulfill the right of Allah, but you can't be like in your own world. Oh, I'm a very, very spiritual person. I'm a very religious person. I don't care about anybody else. That is not a religious person. That is not a man of God. That is not a woman of God. That is not a person of faith. How do you have faith and you don't care about any of the creatures of Allah? أَحَبُّ الْخَلْقِ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَنْفَعُهُمْ لِعِبَادِهِ. The most beloved of Allah's creation to Allah are those who are most beneficial to His creation. When you don't care about other human beings, what is your prayer? What is your ta'alluq ma'Allah? You have no nisbat ma'Allah. You have no ta'alluq ma'Allah. Ta'alluq ma'Allah is when you truly have a connection with Allah, you love the slaves of Allah. You love the bandagan and the servants of Allah, because you say, these are all the creation of my Rabb. These are all the creation of my Allah. How can I show mercy to them? So these two things are always coupled together. أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. Because one is huququllah, the rights of Allah, and the other one is the rights of the slaves of Allah. So you can't be a complete Muslim without this. You can't be a complete Muslim, that you're fulfilling the rights of Allah, but you don't care about anybody else. You don't care about the poor. You don't care about those who are suffering. And one of the most famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he is not a believer who sleeps with his stomach full and his neighbor goes hungry next to him. This is the most famous hadith, the very, very famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. From day one, these were the teachings. That he is not a believer, meaning your faith. What type of faith is this? That you believe in God and you worship Him and shawaruz da ibadat asti. And then somebody is, I don't care, they could die, it doesn't matter to me. I can't write a check every time there's a famine going on in the world. You don't need to write a check. You need to just have dard dil. You just need to have some gham and concern, that's all. And people think that generosity has to do with money. My Shaykh Rahmatullahi Hazrat Maulana Hakim Akhtar Sahab, he said that I was a poor talib ilm. I couldn't give anything as a gift to my Shaykh. So I would go and I would climb the tree and I would cut out a miswak and I would make the miswak from my Shaykh and I would present it to him as a gift. I would go and straighten the shoes of all the students. I would go and I would get water from the well. I would go a mile away because there was no running water. I would go a mile away and I would get water from the lake and I would bring it from my Shaykh. This is generosity. But a person has this mentality, I don't have any money. I don't have any money. I said, generosity is not in money. Manadorum. Manadorum. Generosity is not in having or not having. Generosity is, do you have a heart? You don't have money, but you have a heart? This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. That is why in the hadith of Iftar as-Sa'im, the Prophet ﷺ said that the one who feeds a fasting person, he will get the reward of that person who is fasting as well. He said, Ya Rasulullah, we don't have anything. Like I'm saying, we don't have. We can't feed the people. The Prophet ﷺ said, you will get this reward even if you give somebody a sip of water. You will get this reward even if you give a person a sip of milk, or one, you're eating a date, just break off a piece of it and give the other piece to the other person. This in reality is generosity. This is to teach us, it's not about the amount, and it's not about the money, and it's not about the wealth, and it's not about the affluence. It's about the condition of your heart. Ghamkhar asti anisti? That's the question. Do you have dard? Do you have compassion? Do you consider the next person? Are you considerate of this person, or you not considerate? That's what charity is. Charity is not spending money. Charity is being considerate about someone else. This is what the Prophet ﷺ was teaching us when he was teaching this Fattar as-Sa'im. Man aftara fihi sa'iman kana lahu mithlu ajrihi min ghayri an yanqusa min ajrihi shay. The one who feeds a fasting person, Allah will give him the reward of the fasting person without diminishing the reward of the other one in the least bit. Ya Rasulullah, but we don't have that capacity to throw a grand iftar. He said, who said to throw a grand iftar? You will get this reward even if you give a person a sip of water. And you will get this reward even if you give a person a piece of a date. And you will get this reward even if you give a person a sip of milk. So what is actually the Prophet teaching us? Think about the other person. Be considerate about another human being. And this is not considerate about another human being. This is also charity. The Prophet said that you should withhold your harm from somebody else. This is also charity. Subhanallah. Charity, the meaning of it is what? Be considerate of another human being. That I'm thinking about you. I have not forgotten about you. You are suffering, I care. You are in taklif and you're being disturbed. I don't want to disturb you. I care. This is in reality charity. And the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned this very, very much. And this is not charity. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ يَتْبَعُهَا أَذَى. If you say a good word to a person and pardon a person, this is better for you than to give a person a charity and say, here's your charity, go get a job, loser. What type of charity was that? You know what? You should try working. Here's $5. Try working. Maybe you won't find yourself in this. Allah Ta'ala says, this is not charity. Qawlun ma'roof. It's better for you to say, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, brother. May Allah make your condition easy. I don't have anything right now, but I make dua for you. Allah make your situation easy. That was better than throwing up a bill in his face and saying, hey man, why don't you get a job? Try working for a change. You broke that person's heart. Do you think that that person wants to be in a situation like that? So in reality, charity is what? Charity is being considerate of another human being. And that's what this Ramadan teaches us. That's what charity teaches you. And that's why it's coupled with worship. Worship is between you and your Lord. It's selfish. It's good selfish. You have to be selfish. Allah commanded you, worship me, fulfill my right. But then He also said, give charity. The charity is now what? Now we have to think about somebody else. Not only should I be like, oh, I'm better than, I worship and I do good deeds and I'm pious and I'm righteous. No, now think about your brother. Think about your sister. Think about those who are suffering. And this is why, subhanallah, aqimu salata wa atu zakata. Huququllah and huququl ibad. The rights of Allah and the rights of the slaves of Allah. So then here Allah Ta'ala says, وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَهُوَ يُخْلِفُهُ. As we were mentioning that ear of corn, when you spend that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from that, He gives 7 ears of corn. And in each ear of corn, there is 100 seeds. 700 times is multiplied. This is the least when you are giving. So it is not correct for a Muslim to believe that when I have spent my money is gone. Khalashat, raft, khordish, kortishkat. That's it, it's gone. Right? This type of mentality. Right? Whenever I go, that's it. My money is gone. It's in the wind. Gone with the wind. Khalashat. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. Mata wa dufina. Mata wa dufina. Khalas. You buried it and it's... No. وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَهُوَ يُخْلِفُ. Anything that you spend, Allah will replace it better than that. Allahu Akbar. Allah will replace it in your children. Allah will replace it with barakah in your life. Allah will replace it by removing calamities from you. Allah will replace it by removing gham from your heart. Wallahi, brothers and sisters, this is something that I have seen with my own eyes and I heard with my own ears. That somebody said, Wallahi al-azim, uqsimu billah, in the house of Allah. He said, for a very long time, he said, Shaykh, for a very, very long time, me and my wife, we could not have kids. We couldn't have children. He says, there was a situation, and he asked me, he says, I gave money with this intention that, Ya Allah, I am helping this charity. I am helping these people in need. To the barakah of this, Ya Allah, to the barakah of this charity, You, oh Allah, remove our difficulty and open for us the way. Bless us with children. He said, Wallahi, Shaykh, 3-4 months after that, Allah blessed us with a child. After 10 years. After 10 years of marriage. People were telling me all types of things, go and do this and, try this. And we did everything. We don't know there was something happening to us. What where is the problem is? Where was it? But the reality is Allah gives to who He wills and Allah takes from who He wills. But He said this was our intention. That Allah, through the barakah of this, bless us. This is the meaning of, and anything that you spend, in Allah's way, Allah will replace it. What is the meaning of that replacement? That replacement is not going to be like, okay, direct deposit wire. Okay. Wait a minute. Shaykh said this. Where's the direct wire deposit from Masjid al-Huda? I gave 5,000. Isn't them supposed to get like what? 30,000 back or something? Like, do the calculations. Right? I'm supposed to, where is that? This is talking about, and it could be in many different ways. It could be in other blessings. It could be with the blessing that Allah wards away harm and wards away difficulties. And the reality of it is, brothers and sisters, it's like, subhanAllah, you guys ever been to churches before? Alhamdulillah, most of us born Muslims, Allah Ta'ala has not, let us see the face of a church, and may we never see the face of a church, inshallah Ta'ala. But what it is, squeezing money out of people is an everyday thing. You got to get the money. You have a membership in a church. You pray here? You're a member of this church? Paisa nikalo bhai. Bust it out. Where's it? Empty your pocket. This is number one. Before you come to worship here, pay the money. This is not in our masajid, but it's common sense. I'm worshiping in a specific place. I'm benefiting. These lights, this is Allah's house. Well, Allah's house should be a team. Allah's house should be treated like an orphan walking around with nobody to take care of it. This is my ghayrat. I pray here. I will honor this house. I will respect this house. I will support this house. Are we worse than Christians? Are they better than us? That they know the haqq of the house of Allah? So brothers and sisters, this is not, again, this has nothing to do with that. But this is a matter of the promises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That in not only in the houses of Allah, but in the entire world, how society, how communities, how countries they survive is that the people who Allah has given think about the people who have not given. Isn't that what a government is about? What is a government? A government is a group of people or a person that Allah has given him power, and Allah has given him authority, and Allah has given him wealth. He uses his power, he uses his authority, he uses his wealth, that those people of his society and of his community and of his subjects, they should not be in need and they should not be suffering. They should not be under any government people that are starving. There should not be under any government people who are, homeless. You go to some of these countries where the government cares that that's what my duty is as a governor, as a king, as a president. This is my duty. My people, my subjects should have free health care. They should have housing. They shouldn't suffer. That's what the world is about. This is what the system is about. This is what wealth is about. This is what power is about. That when you get into that position of power, you find those who are in need and you fulfill the needs of those who are suffering. This is what it's about. Otherwise, when we don't have this, then what's the objective? This is where tyranny comes from. This is where zulm comes from. Where you have 2% of the population, they own 90% of the wealth of the community and the society. This is what happens when you don't have deen. My dear brothers and sisters, I will end with this. In the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, this was, I would say, maybe a century after the Prophet passed away, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I would say maybe about a century. They say that the system and the institution of zakat, it was so intricate and it was so organized that the way that zakat works is when you people, for example, give people of this masjid, they give, it's the job of the Khalifa or the job of the governor to take care of all the poor people in this vicinity. That's where first the zakat goes. So when you're giving your zakat, first we give it and distribute it to all the poor people. So if there's any homeless people, if there's any suffering people, if there's any needy people in Union City, the Khalifa that takes the wealth from the wealthy here, he distributes it like welfare upon all the people, giving the people that are homeless homes, giving the people that are needy their needs. And when that is covered, then you'll see that all the people they're no longer needy, then you go to the next city. You go to Fremont. Let's say if the Khilafat is here in Union City. Then when this is covered, then when the zakat comes in, then you go to Fremont. Everybody's covered in Union City. Then you go, for example, further to Milpitas. Then you go further to San Jose. Giving an example. Let me tell you, when they did this, and everybody was making ikhraj of their zakat, and it was, remember that under the Khilafat, there's actually people that go, and zakat is not a tax. Zakat is an act of worship. It is part of our 5 pillars of Islam. So there would be people, amilina alayha. They were workers, they would come, and then they would take from, we've come to get the zakat dues, and then they would distribute it. They say that in the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, they could not find any person who was eligible to take zakat, neither in Medina, nor in Mecca, or any of the vicinity close by. And Umar ibn Abdul Aziz actually had to take the zakat of the people, and he had to go all the way to some village that he found in Yemen. I said, now actually we have found a needy village, and we're going to distribute the zakat there. They could not find anyone there in that whole area of Arabia. To such an extent that this system of social welfare, the system of social welfare, it had spread so far and wide that there was nobody that was eligible. We're not saying that they were rich, right? Being eligible of zakat doesn't mean now that you're actually like super rich. No, but it means that your needs were fulfilled. You are not somebody that is suffering, or you're not somebody that is like downtrodden. You're somebody that you're on your feet and you're making ends meet. That was the condition of the entire Arabia, until they actually found some place in Yemen, and then Umar Abdul Aziz said, Alhamdulillah, now we've held the zakat for a while, now we have a place to actually spend this. Imagine this beautiful system, right? And the reality of it is that despite the fact that in some of our countries we wonder, maname fam ko chera da Afghanistan qadar kharabi is this, that, another. Kharabi, there's people on the same street that the guy is like literally, doesn't have food, and a guy is making a bungalow, like a 10-story bungalow, and he has like 10, 15 armed security guards around his house, and the people of his neighborhood are literally dying of hunger. If this is not going to come there, where is it going to come? A person, he has like literally a sauna and a bathhouse and a garden inside of his house, while on the same neighborhood there's people that are dying of hunger. They don't even have their food to eat. There's a bewa, there's a widow whose husband passed away, or they're crippled because of the war, and they have orphans on that same city, and nobody wants to even ask about them. So when people talk about, where is Allah and why is God doing this to His people and this, that, God is not doing this to us. Allah is not doing this to us. Allah has given us the most beautiful system. Allah gave us the Quran. Allah gave us this beautiful system. Are we implementing it? Are we applying these teachings? How much will it be from your sarmaya, from your khazana? How much will it be from your treasury to just take care of this like orphan family, this widow family? How much would it be? But nobody from that place is thinking about it. Who's thinking about it? All the Muslims that are in Europe and America and England and these places, they're sending the money to whoever, their relatives or whoever it is. Why are the people there not thinking about it? Because this is what happens when wealth comes inside of a person. Your heart becomes hard. You become zalim. You don't care. Khuda zadesha, ba mu khatir nadara. Yeah, I heard people say this. Khuda zadesha. That's why they're poor like that, because God punished him. Astaghfirullah. Bisharm az gap zadanit. Khuda tura zada ka az qalbat rahma kashida. Allah Ta'ala has punished you, that Allah took mercy out of your heart, that you don't have mercy to spend upon somebody else. This includes everybody. Right now, subhanAllah, so many people have reached out to me, his Shaykh, like, we want to spend on our brothers and sisters in Gaza. What can we do? And subhanAllah, it is no way to get, even huge humanitarian aid organizations can't get in, let alone our money. So having that gham and that fikr, and knowing that this is the system of Allah Ta'ala, that whatever you spend, Allah will give you better than that. This is the Allah Ta'ala's system. Allah will bless you in such ways. So make a habit of this. And if you don't have, then you should spend from whatever Allah has given you. I was very pleased with a young man who came here. He told me, Shaykh, how can I be used for the masjid? I said, what do you do? He said, I'm a handyman. I can do this. I can do that. I wanna just use me. Just utilize me. This is all I have. I don't have money, but these are the resources I have. I said, subhanAllah, this is the greatest charity. This is the great. وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ. Whatever you spend, he's spending. He's giving. That hours and time of his, that's worth money. That's valuable. And he's saying, Shaykh, I don't have a lot, but this is what I have. You know, if you have any lights or any electricity or anything that needs to be fixed. And I said, subhanAllah, this is the attitude that we should have for the ummah, that whatever Allah Ta'ala has given me in my expertise, I should spend of that. If Allah has given me, you know, understanding of plumbing, or understanding of I'm an electrician, or I'm a carpenter, or I'm an engineer, or I'm a lawyer, how can I benefit the community with my law? I'm a teacher. How can I benefit the community with my teaching? I'm a, you know, city official. How can I help? I mean, as a city official, how can I help my community? I'm an engineer, or I'm a, you know, consultant, or whatever the case may be. This is my, and when you spend of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless you. This is what we should know. This is what we should always think, that whatever career, some of the college students, they ask me, Shaykh, give me some advice as a college student. So I said, the college students, I advise you that whatever field you go into, make this intention of how can I use what Allah has given me to help the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That whatever Allah has given me, my expertise and my knowledge and my know-how, if I'm a doctor, okay, how am I going to help the Muslim ummah as a doctor? If I'm a mechanic, how can I help the Muslim ummah with this? If I'm an electrician, if I'm a painter, if I'm a writer, if I'm a journalist, if I'm a, you know, in IT, how can I fix the, you know, the website of the masjid, or whatever the case may be? These are the resources that Allah Ta'ala has given you. This is what I say to all the college students, that don't just think about this, that I'm going to work, I'm going to make money, and I'm going to make a life. Everybody does that. Make your purpose in this world much more greater. Have a greater purpose. I'm going to work, I'm going to make money, I'm going to take care of myself, but I also want to take care of the ummah. Nobody said it's wrong to take care of yourself. Nobody said it's wrong to have a good life. But while you're doing that, have a purpose. Have an objective. Have a greater meaning, that this is the good that I'm trying to do in my life. That whatever is given to me as a doctor, doctor, subhanAllah, was telling me, Shaykh, we have to have like a little Muslim clinic, where every weekend we could just take care of all the people that are going through any conditions for free. We want to, subhanAllah. But in order to do that, you have to have this mindset of charity. You have to have this mindset of whatever I give, Allah will give back to me. If you don't have this mindset of charity, and you're just going to be thinking about yourself. This is the difference between tadayyun, deen, and atheism. Atheism, they're like, why should I give? What's in it for me? If I'm not getting anything back from a worldly perspective, tell me the numbers. There was somebody, he was saying, I can get you a job. We were talking the other day, I was like, I can get you a job at this place. He said, money talks, brother, money talks. Don't tell me about getting me a job, tell me how much you're going to pay. I don't care about getting me a job. I don't care if you can get me a job at your place. Tell me how much they're going to give. That's fine, that's not a problem. But I'm saying is, have another mindset as well. Have a mindset of, in my portfolio, I also have helped people in my life. For God's sake, think about somebody other than yourself for a change. You know what I mean? And it's contagious. Wallahi, those who spend on others and those who care for others, wallahi, those people live longer. It's mind-boggling. They've done studies on this, that those who are charitable, those who share, those who spend on others, those who do philanthropic works and they help the community, they live longer. This is mind-boggling. And they don't know what is the reason behind that. What could be the cause? But this is a reality that Allah Ta'ala says that when you're sharing of what Allah has given you, Allah increases you. There's a Quranic proof for that. They've done a study in it, but there's a Quranic proof that when you spend, Allah increases you. And that increase, we don't know. Is it in your bank balance or is it in your lifespan? It could be even in the barakah in your life, in your health, in your wealth, in your children, in your home, in your everything. So this is something for us to take into consideration and remember, this is a principle that we should live by in our lives, brothers and sisters. This principle that we should live by. How much am I, every day of my life, every month of my life, thinking about how much charity have I given? And this is something that we will see the barakah of it in this life and in the hereafter. May Allah give us tawfiq. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.